Hello, hello. We're just going to wait a minute for everybody to fill the room. See, I wish I had something like entertaining to say or like I could sing.
What's that painting you got on the back?
Oh, my wife made that. So
No brainer.
the room itself is relatively small. So what she did was she painted it to like emulate like a Jackson Pollock, and then she filled it with like sound dampening stuff so that it actually prevents the echo in the room.
Oh, cool.
I married up aggressively.
Yeah.
All right, we'll go
That's
ahead and
cool.
get started. Hello, everyone. My name is Josh Copel, and I am pleased to introduce chef and restaurateur Johnny Ray Zone to you. Johnny is the chef and founder of Howlin Ray's, a chicken concept that sparked a worldwide phenomenon. I invited him to chat because Johnny Ray is the full package, pairing business strategy with culinary excellence. This is where fine dining discipline meets guerrilla marketing. Today, we're going to unpack what it took to get to where he is today and where he believes the industry is heading. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Josh Copel. I'm a Michelin-rated restaurateur, and I've spent the last 18 months talking about running restaurants instead of running them. And I've done this with a singular goal in mind, to figure out if there's a recipe for guaranteed success in this industry. I also host Full Comp, a podcast that airs twice weekly, where we unpack the tools, the tactics, and the strategies of the most prominent leaders in this industry. It's a selfish endeavor. I have the privilege of talking to the folks I idolize, and I only ask the questions I want to ask. But the town hall is your turn. Today, Johnny Ray is going to answer the questions you've asked, and I encourage you to use the chat function to ask questions throughout the conversation. If there's anything you want to dig deeper on, let us know. We're also leaving time at the end for Q&A. With that being said, welcome, Chef. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we'll just dig right in. I'll go ahead and share my screen. So the first question is, what are the essential elements in creating an iconic brand like yours? And where do you think most restaurants go wrong with branding?
Definitely. I think transparency is a big one for brands and icons and creating something that is going to be around for a long time. Keeping the goals and intentions within the brand to be very pure and have a singular focused goal of what it is you're going to provide, or what are your company's kind of values, and then hopefully being able to align that with obviously branding and design and elements as such. With us, our singular goal with Howlin Ray's was really to introduce the city of Los Angeles to Nashville Hot Chicken. At the time, there was zero, you couldn't get it anywhere. I just fell in love with this dish, and a lot of the quote unquote branding or design decisions or how we kind of developed the brand all revolved around that singular goal of introducing Los Angeles to Nashville Hot Chicken. In terms of restaurants going wrong with branding, I think trying to do too much, going back to my answer, keeping it singular and very focused, it can get a little clouded and a little like muddy if you are trying to do too much with branding, and also like you have all these aspirations, and keeping it simple stupid is really some of the essential elements, or even just essential like success points that we've had with what we're doing and what we've done.
Something that I want to touch on, because I think it's super important and valuable. You are your brand. Like, no one thinks of Howlin Ray's and doesn't think of you. And I think that as restaurateurs, I think that there's some apprehension with stepping out front and saying, this is my restaurant. These are my beliefs. This is how we exemplify that ideology. And I think it's something you've done a masterful job of. Was there any apprehension going into that?
No, not really. I mean, I think a big focus of mine in the beginning of the restaurant was like, I'm really a fan of Grassroots, and word of mouth, I think, is something that a lot of people don't realize as well as, especially with social media just like exploding, in terms of power and within the industry or many industries. I wasn't afraid of that because I was willing to put in the work and already have, kind of like put in work prior to even Howlin, in terms of like putting in 10 years or whatever as a fine dining chef and things like that. But the harder, to speak more on that question, the harder part is the transition between kind of phasing yourself out of it and enabling other people to do that and become more of a face of the brand. That's more of a difficulty than putting yourself on the forefront, in terms of, like Johnny's Own, Howlin Ray's or whatever, because now it's really a community and with all the employees and the customers and stuff, it's really its own thing. It's its own living and breathing entity kind of thing.
That's a good thing, right?
No, 100%. Yeah, no. And then my job now is really developing those guys and putting things in front of them that are challenging them and growing them to a point where, they're really literally standing on the shoulders that came before them.
How are you able to drive so much traffic to a less than ideal location? I think that puts it kindly. I'll say this: when people look at high value real estate, they want that street facing spot. They want tons of parking, tons of walk through traffic, and you're niche, to say the least. What was your strategy there?
Well, first, I mean, that's all we could afford. Like we couldn't go into like some Americana brand or even just like, Abercrombie or whatever, like real estate. We didn't have the leverage because we didn't want investors. We didn't want to deal with investors. We wanted to just, open a restaurant and do it ourselves and like bootstrap it, if you will. So we were kind of limited due to the financial strength that we had as a company. So with this one, we've always kind of piggybacked on our negotiating skills and just how good we are at doing business and, navigating different situations. And this Far East Plaza place came up and, we could see it potentially opening there. Not that it wasn't hard to even just come up with like a couple $100,000, maxing out credit cards, things like that. It was still really difficult. But for us, it was the integrity of doing something on our own versus just asking for a handout in terms of financial resources. So that has to do with picking out the location. So it wasn't so much we picked out that location. But in terms of driving traffic to a location or just to a business in general, I would say, I mean, you have to start small, and it's hard for people to see that like, okay, I only have 10 customers a day or 20 customers a day. If each of those 10 or 20 customers that you have within that one time period, and you treat them so good and just like A1 service, like you mentioned, like Michelin, even if it's QSR, they eventually start talking. They eventually start like, hey, did you hear about that spot in Chinatown? Like the dude was really cool with me, gave me an extra, wing or something like that, on the house or whatever. And so you start small, you start with that 10 to 20. And then eventually those 10 to 20 start telling their friends, and then it grows and grows, and it might be a slow process, but eventually 3 years later, whatever, you look back and you're just like, holy crap, like I've influenced and affected a lot of people in a way that's super positive. But it's hard to see it when you're only serving 10 customers. And that's, I think, a big part of driving traffic to whatever location.
When I was writing the intro for this, I was thinking about all the words that I would use to describe you. And the word that comes to mind more than any other is patient. And then strategic would probably be the second one. And when I look at your location, I know that it's easily 1,000 covers a day today, but it didn't start like that. And it's also not a coincidence that it's there today. Can you talk to me about the strategy involved from the early days in trying to drive that traffic?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, we started with like 50, like our line was, I don't know, like 20 minutes, or 10 minutes or whatever. And, by having a line, it almost puts a pressure on, like, especially if it's owner operator restaurant, and the operator is the one serving your food and the owner itself. It drives you to like value, like, not only are you taking their money, whether it's like $12 for a sandwich, but you're also taking their time. And so it puts more pressure onto the interactions and the quality of the goods. And if you are like me and my wife, in the sense of like, we almost put too much pressure on ourselves in regards to our business, where it can kind of drive you insane. But the point is that we valued even those first 20 customers, like treated them like they were celebrities or whatever. And that just eventually grew to a point where they were telling their friends, they're just recommending it. Word of mouth is a lot more powerful than people realize, especially now. And that was always our intention. And for me, growing up in the fine dining industry, you would have a two-top that's 21 course meal. And, yeah, you're giving them a great experience and like giving them some fun, tableside creme brulee or tableside this or whatever, smoke in a vase and all that. How do you do that with like something simple like a fried chicken sandwich or something, that's $12? And I think that was honestly one of our key elements to success, was our approach mentally to QSR, which is quick service restaurant, and applying fine dining elements to it. And that helped catapult us, because it wasn't just the hot chicken. I mean, you see it now in LA, there's like thousands of hot chicken restaurants, but it was more the hospitality and the transparency from the brand and from us, and really just doing what we love, what we have a passion for, which is, for me as a chef, it's always been just, welcome to my place. Here's something I made for you, and comforting. And, it's like, it can kind of distract you from whatever issues you're going through. And hopefully it gives you some comfort and, like a warm hug kind of thing. And so how do you do that also on top of like the quality of the food, but how do you do that with the service points? And so I think in regards to the service points, like that's a big part of why Howlin is what it is because we took an extra step to comment on their t-shirt or to, make a joke about ourselves because our haircut, I cut my own hair or whatever, and I messed up here or whatever. And you get more of a human aspect to it. And so when my goal is to bring hot chicken to LA, part of hot chicken for me was not just the chicken. It was when I went in Nashville to a gas station, the woman was talking about her cat for like 5 minutes. And I was thinking this would never fly in LA because people would be like, oh, come on, stop talking about Billy the cat. I got to get my gas. I got to go over here, and out in the South, like it's a slowed down thing. So how do you do that in a scope of like Los Angeles in a way in which it's still representing the South and the Southern hospitality? So that was a big part of driving a lot of traffic to the location, because you're not only getting something you can't get in LA, but you're also getting something that as a human you crave, which is just being treated hospitable.
Well, and let me say this for anyone that's watching this that has a 500 square foot restaurant and feels like it's impossible to create an experience within those four walls. You have done a masterful job of creating a true like visual, auditory, culinary experience within an incredibly small space, leveraging your brigade and leveraging the overall aesthetics and the experience and the hospitality to create something that is nothing short of amazing.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. There was a lot to it, and you can never, what I tell my guys is that there is no ceiling. And I think oftentimes human beings create their own ceiling for themselves. And I could easily said, oh, I have a 500 square foot, like the size of a 1-bedroom studio restaurant. What can I do kind of thing? But I didn't allow it to limit myself,
Absolutely. And you grew again methodically. How long did you have the food truck?
I leased it for about 6 months. So I didn't buy it or anything. All I could do at the time was lease it. So I leased the old, I think it was a Burgers Never Say Die, their old truck, because they transitioned to a restaurant. And the food truck guy had a extra truck on the lot, and I took it for 6 months.
And what were the metrics you looked at when deciding to grow from a food truck to a brick and mortar?
We looked at all the food trucks are great because you can look at the different demographics of where you're busiest in regards to like sales, like how much are you selling here, how much are you selling here. And so we were really popular in Little Tokyo, and then we were really popular in Silver Lake. And for me, Chinatown's right in between those two, so that helped me decide on that location. But the biggest deciding factor was just really the deal, the deal in place with the landlord, and being fair terms, and me not having to have so much pressure where if I were to say give away like a large portion of food to the customers, that it's not an issue.
You waited a long time to open your second restaurant, like a long time. Like there were, within 6 months of you opening the brick and mortar, people were talking about, when are you going to open the next restaurant? And you didn't wait months longer than that. You waited years. And so I'm wondering, what were the deciding factors that ultimately led to the decision to open a second location? Because there had to be a lot of pressure.
100%. One thing on hindsight, can you imagine if I were to say, do a franchise deal and have like 30 locations right now, with COVID and all this stuff happening, and also the shortage of labor and things like that? Like we're so fortunate right now with like our staff and our labor, and with everything that's happened, where we've been able to pivot in an extremely positive way. Whereas if I went for rapid growth and chasing dollars and chasing just having multi-unit, oh, how many units do you have? Oh, I have 200, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's like how pristine and how powerful are those units and your employees amongst them, and it's like right now, like I have just these straight killers in the restaurant that have been able to develop through COVID, with opportunity to grow through management and everything like that. And so, that's been huge for us and for our growth, by taking it slow and doing it on your pace. But to the ultimate answer to the question really is, we're not trying to get rich. We're trying to do what we love, and do what we love in a way in which no one's telling us what to do. Like whether if we want to play Nipsey Hussle in our restaurant, or we want to, put up a mural of Nat King Cole because there's history tied to it in the new restaurant, we can do it, or we want to serve something that'll just make you vomit because it's so spicy. Like, okay, that's what we do, I mean, so because that's been, to answer the first question, in my first answer to the first question, because we've had a very singular focus within the brand and the company values and what we're trying to do. Jack Dorsey said it to me best. He's the owner of Twitter. He said, all your expansion moves should go back to your original company's values and company goals and aspirations, right? And so, the city getting introduced Hot Chicken, and us opening up 2030 and franchising it and expanding and doing all these deals that are presented that other companies have taken, and nothing against them. We're just not chasing dollars. We want to do what we love and have fun doing it, and also make sure our staff's taken care of and our customers are taken care of. And unfortunately, I don't come from money, and I don't have millions of dollars that I'm sitting on. I could take these deals and open up many locations, which I'm sure a lot of people would like, but it's never been about money. It's more a labor of love for me. And, it's kind of translated with Howlin to just the cultivation of the employees. Like it's crazy to see the amount of growth that guys that started with me 4 years ago, and then where they're at now, and, them starting families, having 6 kids, blah, 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 all this stuff. It's just like, it's so rewarding that it's actually more rewarding than just, what, $1 million in your bank account or whatever. I know that's a lot of people's goals and aspirations, but for us, I had a taste running restaurants on an executive level with 6-figure income, and I was actually drinking more, smoking more, and my lifestyle was a little more, not as healthy as it is now. So point being is that the reason why we're so patient and methodical in our approach is because A, it's really important to us, but B, we're doing it for the right reasons. We're not just doing it chasing dollars.
I absolutely idolize you. When we had our initial conversation, I said it in the intro to the podcast. I said, like, the reason you're successful is because you're a zealot. You're a true believer. And you just don't see a lot of that these days, especially when you reach the level of success that you've reached, because there are so many different opportunities out there. It was such a lesson to me, and I hope it's such a lesson to the people listening, that, you've got to walk the walk and talk the talk. And if you do, that's what resonates with people. That's how you get to 1,000 covers a day at a 500 square feet, because that's what people are identifying with.
Yeah, I mean, customers are a lot more intelligent than people realize. Like, even the term customers, like, oh, our customers, blah, blah, blah. But like, people are way more intelligent, whether it's on social media or anything like that. And it's important to be transparent about it. And the more transparent you are with it, the more people are going to be like, I'm gonna fuck with this guy. Like, I get with this guy because what he's doing is really cool. And also, it's not selfish, and it's not greedy, and it's not just exploiting hot chicken or whatever it is. It's like there's some actual true integrity to it.
You play with ghost kitchen operations and traditional brick and mortars. For your QSR model, what do you think is more lucrative, and what do you think is going to be more lucrative moving forward?
Now, define lucrative, like, so I can answer the question better. Like, lucrative financially, lucrative for the company, lucrative for the customer.
Lucrative financially. Let's assume that the average net profit of a full service restaurant is what, right about 6%. Is there an opportunity to make more of that going with a non-traditional option like a ghost kitchen?
I think in order for a ghost kitchen to be lucrative, is you have to have a brand name. And so you can't just open a ghost kitchen. You've seen it all across the board with companies like SBE, or like all these people just doing ghost kitchen concepts, and then they fail because you kind of have to prove yourself first, and you have to develop a following, you have to develop a clientele. So it's a kind of tricky question to answer, because for us, the reason why our ghost kitchen was lucrative and makes sense is because we developed such a huge following, and people wanted our product, and they fuck with us. They want to support our brand, and they know where it's going and how it's spent and everything. And it's like just really transparent. So if I were to answer this question and say, oh yeah, ghost kitchens are more lucrative, if it's your first concept and you just go straight into a ghost kitchen, it may not be as lucrative, because the other hard part is that most of them are going into these cloud kitchen concepts, and the cloud kitchen concepts, you're also giving up control, because then the people packing or giving the food to the third party app, it's your restaurant, and then it's the cloud kitchen employees who run the front, and then it's the third party app. There's so many hands in between just consumer and restaurant that they're trying to take cuts off the top and things like that. And so that's less lucrative, and that's what a lot of people are doing right now. And I'm trying to help them, whether it's negotiate or navigate those situations, because ultimately, if you start a company, and you're going to give a percentage off the top, why would you, then they're essentially owners, but all they're providing is a space. Why not just go and find a space? This is what we did with our ghost kitchen. Find a concept that's struggling, like a taco place, and they want to get out of their lease, and help them get out of their lease, and also go in there and build it. It's already a pre-existing thing, and spend, I don't know, $50,000 or whatever, put it together. And I know I say 50,000 like it's whatever, but it is a lot of money. But invest and believe in yourself to make that happen, and then you own the whole thing, and you don't have to charge. You don't have to give anything off the top. Yeah, it's the harder route and more difficult, but you're also helping out a company who's struggling during COVID to get out of a lease that they are, 5 years attached to. So try and create win-win-win situations, but don't go in it, trying to just chase dollars, because if you're going to go into a ghost kitchen and you see it as more lucrative than, say, a standard restaurant, you need a brand, you need a following, you need people to be curious, and you need kind of, something for them to support, as opposed to just say hopping on a hot chicken bandwagon or hopping on whatever, poke or something like that, and then creating a concept, it's got to be deeper than that. There's got to be some storyline to it, something that people can get behind. But once you have a brand established and you take care of your customers, you take care of your employees and people, you have a clientele, and you can open into different markets, 100% ghost kitchens would be great. Although there is, if someone, let's say in Santa Monica or right now in Pasadena, is having Howlin for the first time and their experience is limited to Postmate driver dropping off their food, then you have to kind of, this is what we did, is like you have to figure out how to provide that kind of same hospitality, and maybe it costs more, because then I don't know how many times you've ordered takeaway food, but like for us, a lot of times we'll throw in a box and we'll write a little message on it. It's like handwritten, and it'll say like, after you eat this, maybe you get hungry later, and this is for that, or something, you know, corny and like funny or whatever on the box. And we do that, and that's exactly what we've done from day one, whether it's in person, but there's ways around it. But I would say, to answer this question specifically, ghost kitchens are definitely lucrative, but you have to, it's kind of like, you can't just go into it as a level 1 operator into a ghost kitchen. You have to kind of like get some experience and level up to, let's say, like level 30 or whatever as an operator and as a brand, and then you explore it, because there is a lot of costs associated with ghost kitchens and in any kitchen in general. And then on top of that, you have the fees from the third-party apps, which, by the way, you need to negotiate the crap out of as a business operator. You need to negotiate everything, whether it's with your landlords or third-party apps or, you know, employees or whatever. You know, you have to fight for everything.
That's great advice. What was your marketing strategy when initially opening the restaurant? So you'd had 6 months as a food truck, right? And, you know, I remember those days because I was in LA at the same time, and you tried to make everything very experiential. And it seemed like every event we were at, you were at. So it seemed like you were trying to be everywhere at once. How did that roll into an overall marketing strategy for the brick and mortar?
Yeah. So, I mean, Amanda, my wife, she kind of handled all the marketing, all the social media, all the press and everything. And I just kind of would defer to her, and, you know, I would just be the executioner and just go in and execute and do it to the best of our abilities. But an overall, to give you an answer to this and also some other questions, an overall concept is, I went to a tire place and I had a flat tire, and they changed the tire for free, right? And here I am telling you about this tire place. I forgot the name by now because this was years ago. And I'm telling you guys about this tire place, right? And it was just a tire, like inside patch job where they patched it from the inside or whatever. But they did it for free, and they're like, no, it's on the house. You know, you haven't used us before or whatever. And I've told so many people about that tire place, right? So word of mouth has been an overall marketing strategy, whether it's initially opening it or even now, or you know, when we were in a food truck, and it's little experiences like that get people to share, you know, with other people and essentially market for you for free, because we've never really paid $1 in marketing. Maybe we've had ads that are paid for from other companies, like whether it's Postmates or something like that, but we've never spent really $1 on marketing for our brand, because we've invested all that money instead to giving our customers extra chicken or paying our staff really well and taking care of them. Because that's another marketing thing that restaurants fail to recognize, is that if you take care of your employees and you provide a really good work environment where they're learning and growing and some of their aspirations throughout life are being fulfilled, that's marketing in itself, because they're going to tell their family, and then their family's going to tell their family. And we get people from like all over, like Monticello, Indiana, like my wife's cousins, they're teachers from elementaries in like this like kind of middle of America place coming to the restaurant, or even just like us doing charity work with schools. The kids, like some of the kids, they wanted to work there, you know, and these were like underprivileged, like South LA schools that we're going to, bringing chicken, doing talks on entrepreneurship and like, you know, self-empowerment. You know, those are the things that our marketing strategy revolved around, which is a heavy reliance on word of mouth, a heavy, investment into our people and our customers, as opposed to, let's say, do $10,000 ad or hire this PR firm. Nothing against PR firms. I think they do a great job, but like I didn't have the money to spend $20,000 on a PR agent and do all this stuff, so word of mouth was kind of what I had to do, but I put a serious value on it. And I feel like a lot of people undervalue it, because it's important.
I've even, one of the things that I've seen with your marketing effort is that it's all done in a really authentic way. And I'd love for you to unpack for everyone, just because you are busy, but somehow managed to find the time to do it. All of the charitable work that you guys do. Talk to me about those initiatives and how you're working to benefit your neighborhood in like a really tactile way.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a big part of a lot of the decisions that I make within the company are like win-win-win situations. So killing multiple birds with one stone. So when we first started, like Pasadena, a great example is, it's like, okay, how can we give away like 500 sandwiches and also get used to the busyness of having to make 500 sandwiches in a new, smaller space that's a ghost kitchen and things like that. So there's a lot of different benefits to it. And a lot of the charity work that we've done, we haven't even like posted about, because, over the past year or two, it's a sensitive time. So if you have a company that's always just posting about, hey, I gave away this, gave away this, gave away this, you have to be smart about it, kind of thing. But for us, it's a benefit because we're building a relationship with, if it's a school, we're cooking for like 500 kids and then doing a talk, or if it's like with all the homeless people that were getting relocated out of Echo Park, doing an event like that, we're still at the same time able to, let's say, maybe put our certain staff members in a situation where they're being challenged and they're having to execute a lot of orders that they normally wouldn't when you have a paying customer and their demands or their expectations are very high, so we kind of utilize it as a training op as well. But a lot of our initiatives and a lot of our kind of focus is around, a lot of our customers, or like we have a customer like Bad Luck, like he grown up in Watts in LA, and he'll have some food drives with Watts sticks, and he'll hit me up, and yeah, we'll gladly kind of like donate and do it. And it's so kind of comes as it will. And there's no real like, oh, we want to dedicate a certain dollar amount to charities per year or whatever. It's not about that. It's more just about keeping within our community and our fans and our customers, and people hitting us up, in a school, like, hey, I want to provide some of our athletes. We just recently did a school one, some sandwiches, because the kids were having it rough in terms of transitioning back to reopening after being, away from school for so long. So there's no real like main focus on it. It's more of just like spreading love and love coming back to you as an intention, and doing it in a way that's intelligent as well. Because a lot of restaurant owners don't realize, like, you can negotiate with your purveyors. Like maybe you get a certain amount of product for free because it's for a charity or for this event, and really taking it as an opportunity to assert your power and exercise the rights that you have as a customer, to them, to your vendors.
Win-win-win.
And creating a win-win-win. Yeah, exactly.
I love that, man. You were slow to offer delivery through the first location. And I'm sure that as a result of the pandemic, it became a viable option. What benefits have you seen to delivery, and what was it that ultimately pushed you to start?
So the benefits of delivery are, if you can control the batching process, which is like when a driver shows up and how many orders they have, if you can limit that to less than like 3, so that one driver isn't taking 4 different customers their food to all different areas of you can actually end up serving a lot more customers than you would in a traditional restaurant platform. So there's definitely some benefits to that. But there's also, like anything, it's a two-sided story. You're almost trusting that company too, to kind of like represent you as a brand, but also how they carry the food and how it's handled and everything like that. So we were hesitant naturally about it because we wanted to be in control of the whole experience on how they got our product. But the pandemic did kind of push us to do delivery, because during a pandemic, how are you going to operate a 2-hour, 3-hour line with 6 feet in between? And some people aren't wearing masks and some people are, and then people are getting aggressive. I mean, we saw a huge influx of aggression from customers, where they wanted their chicken, they wanted it now, even if they're not wearing a mask. And, you've seen other restaurants have to deal with issues like that. And so delivery was a good way for us to kind of pause that as the world's going through what it's going through, and keep at least our product flow going out. You know what I mean? And so that was the pandemic did push us to do delivery, because I didn't see us operating and having like 20 security guards out front as beneficial for anyone, really.
Is it part of the rollout strategy moving forward? Do you think all new Howlin Ray's locations will offer delivery?
We're gonna see how it goes with the second restaurant. We're gonna try and offer takeout and beer and wine and everything. But I think we could, whether it's the restaurant having delivery or like a ghost kitchen or a cloud kitchen offering delivery for that area, there's certain ways to do it, that we can make it fruitful for everyone. You know what I mean? And then, for example, my junior management team, they could go and get equity into that cloud kitchen, and then they own a portion of that ghost kitchen or whatever. And then they're, having babies, creating families and doing their own thing. And like, it's awesome. So it's all a matter of perspective, so I couldn't answer it, because the way we navigate is never really definitive, especially during the pandemic and COVID. We've had to be very flexible with a lot of things. And I think it's taught me a lot about, running a business and operating multiple restaurants and things like that, and being fluid and flexible.
One of the best ways, I think, to speak to that point in the next one, one of the best ways to recruit new talent is by treating your existing employees incredibly well. And I think that even coming out of fine dining, that's something that you really set the standard on with road mapping and equity and training and road mapping and all of these amazing things. Talk to me about the tactics and strategies that you use to retain your employees and how that effectively helps lure in new talent.
Yeah, I just got yesterday, I just gave two of my guys, there was their birthdays, and these customized kind of like birthday presents for them. And I actually got a lot of joy out of it, going and picking out, one guy he's really into Yeti, shout out to Yeti. And then another guy, he's an old school skater, likes, brands like Element and stuff like that. And so it really goes down. It doesn't, I could say like, oh, buy him birthday presents or do this or get him vacation or whatever. Really what it comes down to is just taking care of them and being able to have the social intelligence on reading people when they're frustrated or upset. And also having the social awareness of, if someone might be asking for a raise, you're the one that's talking about the raise before they have to bring it up. You know what I mean? And so a lot of it is having a value for the employees, even if they don't have the skill set now. But if they have the right attitude and the mindset, and they're like your right-hand guy, even if like their skill set isn't there yet, being patient with them too can be huge, because you would be shocked how much people can grow with the right guidance and the right leadership from you as a business owner. And also the patience too. And that's something that fine dining taught me what not to do, because they were not patient with me. It was, why is this overseered and throwing it in my face and telling me get the fuck out of there? That was not patient, but people make mistakes. A big thing that I work with the employees on is like, I encourage mistakes as long as they're not making the same mistakes, because mistakes are how you grow. So I think in terms of a high level answer to like not luring, but retention of employees is by being a really good leader. So if you can be a really good leader, that's a passive thing that is going to happen because you're a good leader, and understanding what a good leader is. That's something that passively happens because of that, because people want to fuck with a good leader. They'll grind with a good leader, and they'll go to war with a good leader. So it's a passive thing that happens when you're a really good leader. And it takes time and patience and self-awareness and looking at oneself in terms of like, where did I fuck up? What did I do wrong in this situation? And also being able to apologize in that situation. The last few weeks I had manager meetings and I was apologizing like, hey, I'm sorry I didn't make it clear enough what your role is as a manager, where I don't want them bossing people around. Like, that's not what I want. I want you to focus on every day having an opportunity here within the company to improve yourself. And so don't be too concerned about the other guys or if the operation's running smoothly. Take this as an opportunity to improve yourself. And I apologize. I said, I'm sorry I didn't make that clear enough in the beginning, because obviously the employee was so focused on like the operation and trying to like, boss people around, but that didn't create a good structure, or the structure that I'm trying to go for. So being able to be humble about it, that ultimately makes you a better leader, and your word becomes has more weight to it. It's more leaden in terms of like, it's just more powerful. So I think to answer your question is by becoming a really good leader. And if you want to start a business, or if you're operating a business, you are a leader, and you have to every day take an opportunity to improve upon that, and your business will thrive and your employees will thrive as long as you are constantly in that Mamba mentality.
You say that in they say to run a great business, you have to focus on doing things that scale, but to run a great company as a leader, you have to focus on doing things that don't. And I would assume, based on the way you describe this, that a lot of your day-to-day is doing things that don't scale. It's mentorship and one-to-one relationships and picking out customized gifts for your staff. You're just trying to be the best boss you can be to each individual based on their own needs. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but you can also argue that like one of the guys, I got a Rolex and it didn't cost me anything. I just put in the lease. Hey, I know you own this Rolex store and you're the owner of this property. I'll give you a skip the line pass. You give me a Rolex, and I gave the Rolex to one of my employees. And that employee has 6 kids, and he's never going to buy something for himself, I think, because he's too busy buying diapers for the 6 babies that he has. And so the scalability, though, is in the fact that they're growing and they're developing, and they might actually end up doing it better than you could have, because they're learning off of your shoulders. So there's actually more scalability and more longevity to it. Whereas if I were to right now take like the franchise route, like Dave's Hot Chicken route, and open up 40 or 50 restaurants, but I don't have a core team of employees that have been with me since day one that'll ride or die with me, and I just have a few people because I've only been in business 6 months to a year, and then I sign it away to like a franchise group, that's not as powerful. It's more powerful to have like just these talented people surrounding you that are mutually invested. And so there is a scalability to it. But the key is that you're in control, and you can do it on your own schedule and when you want to do it and when you see fit, versus what the money is telling you what to do.
With the labor crisis, have you felt the pressure to hire for skill rather than culture just to get warm bodies in there?
No, I think hiring for skill is a means to an end. It's not going to get you what you want as an employer, because those are oftentimes the situations where then they'll come in and, oh, well, I do it like this, or I've done it like this at this restaurant or whatever. Most of my employees I've hired for attitude and just integrity. Like, those are my key kind of elements in terms of what I look for in employees. And also, check this out, if you can teach an employee something and also pay them and you treat them really well, you become more valuable to that employee because you're actually teaching them stuff that they don't already know. So, if someone, I had a guy, his name's Mauricio, we did a guest collaboration with Guest Jeans, and they wanted to film me and for the promo video and stuff. I was like, no, I got the perfect guy, this guy Mauricio. He literally got hired because he sent us a audition video of a rock band, him singing in a rock band, 0 kitchen experience. And now he's like one of the junior level management. And like, he got to be in this guest video that I put him in instead of myself. And he was so enthusiastic about it. And that's what you should hire on. If you're hiring based on skill, it means maybe you're looking for the wrong things to build a company. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of like enabling, then you almost depend on those guys too much or whatever. It's important as an employee to have your employees respect you and understand that you're not only providing them a job, you're teaching them things that they can use in their own life, and you're trying to groom them to a point where they become business owners, businessmen, because that should be the ultimate goal as a boss is when someone can go on and do their own business or become more powerful in life and have more things for their life. If you can do that, then you don't have to lure employees. You will have people knocking at your door kind of thing. And so for us during the pandemic, we've been very blessed because we haven't had to experience, a labor crisis or shortage, because we increased the pay rate. We increased like it's expensive. We have 15 salaried people for one restaurant and one ghost kitchen right now. I mean, but they're happy and they're growing. And so, that's a big part of why we're not having to go through this labor crisis.
Amen. Are there any pandemic pivots that you're hanging on to moving forward, or whether it's an ideology or a plan for the future or just something really practical?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think with the sanitation and the cleanliness of with washing hands and just our sanitation practices have just skyrocketed, and I feel really good about how we're operating the restaurant. So those will 100% continue. I think with offering testing and all that stuff and us paying for it, and helping out the families, and testing their family members as well. A lot of it, I don't see too much negative to it. Yeah, there's more cost associated with operating the restaurant. And the biggest negative is really that people can't get that Howlin hospitality because it's through delivery. But there'll be a time and place, and I'm patient, and no one's having to push me into a situation where I need to open up 20 or 10 or 2 or whatever. So a lot of it with the pandemic and COVID and everything, it's been positive, for us. Yeah, obviously it affects business and it changes the whole dynamic, but customers aren't even having to wait 2 hours. Now they can order it on their phone and it's there in 20 minutes. We have one of the fastest turnaround times from the user clicking order to them receiving it, and also one of the highest, 99.8 order accuracy in terms of over the platform, whereas the norm is 75%. So, I mean, yeah, we've embraced it. I've always been taught, this is a great piece of advice that I was told, is you're in the restaurant industry, right? And you're always going to have issues because running a restaurant is fucked up. It's hard. It's difficult. And you're always going to have, whether it's staffing issues, labor laws, workers' comp issues, food products going up, the expense of running a restaurant in terms of cost of goods, the COGS, so high now. But the one thing that you always have is yourself, right? So if you can train yourself to get used to all these bullshit problems that are going to happen, because you're in the restaurant industry and it's going to happen. So if you can just get used to that and you understand that these problems will happen, and you just get used to the fact that, yeah, I'm in an industry that's full of problems, but I'm really good at it. I'm really good at dealing with these problems, and it's almost like bring it on next. I'm not saying, I was joking to my guys because I was sharing the same thing with my upper level management. I'm not saying bring me more problems and then all of a sudden Zeus throws me a lightning bolt and then hits me or whatever. I'm trying to say, just get used to the fact that running a restaurant, it's full of problems. So for us, the pandemic pivots and the moves that we've had to make, they're positive. They're positive moves for both the employees and the customers, and we'll retain most of them. And as things reopen, but we're patient and we're not in a rush to do that because of our outlook, because of how we see what it means to run a restaurant and what it means to be a part of our company and how we structure that. And so we're patient. So I'm trying to build something that's going to be around even when I die, kind of thing. And that's a big goal of mine. And I'm not just trying to go hot flash in the pan, capitalize on hot chicken, just jump on it. I'm trying to do something that's going to be an institution for whether it's Pasadena, Chinatown, et cetera, and also for the employees within it too. So Yeah, I mean, I think that we're definitely going to hang on to some of the stuff for sure. It's part of the way the world operates.
Absolutely. I want to turn it over. Matt, if I could get some help, there are almost 40 comments and questions. I want to turn it over to the audience to see what
Hey,
questions
Josh,
they have.
you've got 5 great questions in the Q&A. So if you just want to pull up that Q&A, those are the 5 questions
Got
you
it.
should focus on.
Evan's asking, was it your intention to have the vectors from the restaurant lead to you, or was that something that happened naturally?
The vectors? What do you mean by vectors?
Evan, can you speak to that? While we're waiting for Evan to respond, he had a follow-up question, and he said, with that growth, how much did your vision for the space change from when you started to when the business popped off?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's been a constant, it's a mentality thing. So we've always been in the same mentality. And it's, how do you go from serving 100 people a day to 200 to 400 to 500? You have to have that mentality of constant growth. And that's something working for Thomas Keller that he preaches, is you're constantly in search of perfection, knowing that you will never attain it. Because once you feel like you've gotten it to a point where it's perfect, then all of a sudden a new problem is going to happen and you're going to have to change that whole thing again. So to be okay with being in search of perfection and in search of improvement and constantly improving has been our philosophy, and why it's enabled us to serve more and more customers per day. So it wasn't, the idea and the concept was completely different from day one and into where it's at now. But what's been consistent has been our attitude and mindset of constant growth and constantly improving what we do and how we do it. Because I think you can easily have a concept or a vector or an idea in your head and then want to create that. But sometimes you have to go against yourself and be like, well, maybe that's not the right way to do it. Change it up a little bit. And then a year later, you'll be like, okay, we need to improve on this. But to be fluid and the capability of fluidity within your perspective and not being so hard set has been a huge part of our success.
Evan unpacked the question and he wants to know, was it always your intention to be the face of the brand? Was that part of the brand strategy?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. I was, so for the first 3 years, I literally served every single customer within that operation and passed them the sandwich and everything like that. And it did get to a point where it's too difficult. But at the time, I didn't trust anybody to handle my baby that I named after my dead father. You know, I didn't trust it. I wanted to do the dirty work myself. Not even dirty work. I wanted to do the work myself to build it up. And so now, as we transition, now it's about making, other people the face of the brand and growing those individuals, because it would be stifling if I were always constantly like, Johnny's Own has to serve you, and that's what Howlin Ray's is. No, it's like they could actually maybe do a better job and make you laugh or relate to you more differently, because everyone's different. Our hair color is different, our skin color is different. And people can relate to different people. It doesn't have to just be that one solo person that's operating and the face of the brand.
James is asking, how are you managing menu pricing in this inflationary economy?
So we haven't changed our menu prices since pre-COVID. We're coming up to like a small change, probably this week or next, like $1 here on 3 items. I think the sandwich, wings, and tenders, just because the price have gone up about 6 months ago and they keep going up. So we're going to have to do a price change, but we're not going to make a big deal out of it. And we're also we've never been like so driven to make like so much money on our product. It's more about the sustainability of our brand. So a lot of our menu prices pre-COVID have been sustainable prices, both for the customer and for us. And then now with COVID happening, now we're finally, whatever, a year, 2 years in, we're finally going to go to a small price increase, but it's nothing big. We're not doing a big increase, because I think a lot of brands would see this as an opportunity to raise their prices, and they will. But like I said in some of the earlier questions, keeping it transparent with people. Look, I mean, the cost of goods are going up and this is what it is, but we're not gouging people out of it, because customers can read through that. So I would recommend just being transparent about it and keeping it real and figuring out on your back end what you can and how you can negotiate, whether it's with your vendors or maybe there's some systems within your restaurant that need correcting because you're wasting money on oil or something like that.
The last question comes from Evan, and he wants to know, what was the timeline? How long did it take to get from, let's say, a 10-minute wait to like a 2-hour-long wait for customers? How long did it take you to scale to that level of volume or that level of demand?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 7 to 12 months. It took a long time, but there was a lot of little things. You got to think of it like a rubber band ball. There's a lot of little rubber bands that kept being added, whether it's the Jonathan Gold review or this article in Los Angeles Magazine, or Eater posting this, or a rapper shouting us out, or all these little rubber bands just kept getting added to it. And that's where you could start to see the momentum building up as if it's rolling downhill or whatever. But it does take time, and during that time you have to be super hungry and every day go in and fight for it and treat those, whether it's 40 customers, like they're all celebrities, like they all are just princes and princesses, and that's where it kind of really started at that point. But also I think we would have, if we wanted the line and we were comfortable with the line and we kept our operation like slow, what it was before, people would get frustrated. So we actually had to get quicker at the line, and that actually made us more efficient, but also able to serve more customers. So it can be actually a bad thing if you have a 2-hour line or an hour line or whatever for a year, because it shows the customers you're not doing anything to change it really. So we had more of a line because we were trying to address the line issue as opposed to just resting on our laurels and being slow about it. So that actually helped us generate more of a line, because then people are like, oh, it's not so bad right now. It's 10 minutes or whatever, because we're not afraid of the line, getting wiped away or whatever.
Johnny, man, this has been so great. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us. For everybody that's listening, Johnny Ray Zone, you can check him out at howlinrays.com. And here's to more win-win-win situations.
Definitely.
Cheers, brother.
Appreciate it, guys.